UFC 287 is right around the corner, and in this video I have my full card predictions, which props I like the best for each of the fight, and which parlays I'm going to be taking myself. We're going to get through this as quickly as we possibly can, and if you end up enjoying the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing. We just hit 500 subscribers. Channel's been growing really quickly, and I can't thank you guys enough. So to open the card, we have Jaqueline Amorim versus Sam Hughes. Besides the fact that Sam Hughes is almost certainly related to TJ Dillashaw, I don't think she's going to win this fight. She's a decent fighter, not the best, not even close to being near the best if we're being honest. I'm going to be taking Jaqueline Amorim in this one. I know betting on women's MMA in general is terrifying, let alone when they're a young prospect entering into the UFC. But Amorim is a special talent from what I can see so far. She has amazing judo, amazing submissions, and Sam Hughes is just meh. You know, she's not really special anywhere the fight goes. I believe she's going to get this one by submission, which is my favorite prop bet of the card. You can get Jaqueline by submission for plus 120. Not a bad stab for me personally. I'm going to be taking it money line though, just in case it goes to decision. She wins like that as well. But as a prop bet, especially as a single stab, Jaqueline by submission for plus 120. Not a bad bet at all. Moving on up, we have Shayilan Neurdanbieke versus Steve Garcia. Earlier on the week, I was on the train of Steve Garcia. You'll understand when I read some of these stats out loud. However, after visualizing this fight in my head, I am picking Shayilan Neurdanbieke to get the win. So Steven's got good takedowns, good striking, lands 5.15 strikes per minute and only takes 2.52. Whereas Shayilan Neurdanbieke, he lands 2.17 and takes 2.93. So obviously those numbers are very scary when you look at them on paper. Steve has never really made it past the first and second round, and when he does, it usually doesn't always go in his favor. He's a blitz him, get him out of there right away type of guy, or get finished himself. And what I'm banking on is I think Shayilan Neurdanbieke is going to be tough enough to handle the early onslaught from Steve. I see Steve trying to get him out of there right away. Probably going to be a Steve Garcia round one, but as the fight continues on, Shayilan's not the best wrestler, but what he's good at is taking a bunch of punches and not stopping coming forward. He's like a little Terminator of a guy. So I see as the rounds progress, he's going to continue to walk down Steve. As soon as Steve starts to slow down just a little bit, that's when I see Shayilan getting in some takedowns. And once he starts getting some takedowns, it's going to be laying on top of him, doing a little ground and pound. I see Neurdanbieke winning this on decision, 29-28. He's going to lose the first round, but he's going to come back and win the next two. That's my prediction. My favorite prop for this one is fight goes the distance at plus 160. When you pair Steve Garcia, who rarely goes the distance, up against Neurdanbieke, who doesn't really finish guys all that often, he usually grinds you out to decision. I see Steve not finishing Neurdanbieke, and I see Neurdanbieke grinding him out to the decision and getting this prop bet to cash. Moving on up, we have Ignacio Bahamondes versus Trey Ogden. Picking Bahamondes to get the win. He's the real deal. He's very good and he looks very impressive when he fights. He's coming off a submission win back in February of 2022. And in case you forgot, Trey Ogden literally had to cut weight down to 155 2 weeks ago, and he had his fight canceled at the very last second. He's now cutting down to 160. A little bit of a catch weight, but essentially making 2 full weight cuts back to back. And even if that wasn't a factor, I would still be picking Bahamondes. I still think he's the better fighter. I know Trey's a big submission threat, but I think Bahamondes is good enough to avoid getting caught there. And then when you combine that with Trey Ogden's double weight cut, it should be a clear landslide victory for Bahamondes. My favorite prop for this one is fight does not go the distance, minus 300. I think Bahamondes is going to get him out there in the first or second round. However, if I'm wrong and Trey Ogden gets the sub, it'll probably be within the first or second round as well. So under those circumstances, the prop would hit either way. Moving on up, we have Lupita Godinez versus Cynthia Cavillo. This one for me is still a dog or pass fight. I see a lot of people picking Lupita because when you look at Cynthia's record, it looks pretty damn bad. You know, it's pretty depressing, especially if you're on her side. But she's really been fighting the best of the best. None of those losses to me scream out like, oh, you don't belong in the UFC. She's just losing to really good competition. Now, Lupita is good. She has been shown to be good, but she's nowhere near the same level of experience as Cynthia Cavillo. So I am picking Lupita to get the win. To me, it's a hard dog or pass. I think I use Lupita on like one parlay. However, what I think is the best bet of this fight is fight goes the distance. You get that at minus 300. I really see that happening. In general, in women's MMA, they always go to the distance, but especially in this matchup, I think that we're going to see this one go to the distance. Moving on up, we have Joe Pyfer versus Gerald Meerschart. This one's tricky for me because I was on Gerald Meerschart earlier in the week. He's such a good underdog. The odds you can get him at, especially for submission, is crazy. Gerald Meerschart is very dangerous if he can get the fight to the floor. He gets almost all of his wins lately by submission, and a lot of them are after he's been getting the shit kicked out of him for a bunch of the fight. His opponents get tired, and then he catches them in something. So Joe Pyfer in his earlier fights has shown to put up a high pace and start to get a little tired, so it's a little worrying, but I did watch Joe Pyfer's grappling match versus Eric Anders. His wrestling and takedown defense seemed to be very good in that. I think after Joe Pyfer lost via submission earlier in his career, he's really started focusing on brushing up on those. And let's be honest, Joe Pyfer knows exactly what Gerald Meerschart wants to do. I was watching an interview with him and Sean Brady. They have a little podcast where they talk about picks, and I got to see Joe Pyfer's insight into his game plan. As far as he's concerned, he believes Gerald Meerschart is no match on the feet for him, which I would completely agree with. He believes Gerald's going to want to get it to the ground. He's planning on being able to stop whatever takedown attempts or grappling attempts Gerald plans on exchanging in and putting him out on the feet. And I think that's a really good game plan to go in with. Of course, it's the obvious one. So I am picking Joe Pyfer, the prospect, to get this one. But my God, if you're the type of bettor who is just hunting those underdog odds, Gerald Meerschart is a very good underdog to pick in this one. As far as props on this one, like I said, if you want to go on Meerschart by submission, they're giving plus 300 at that. If he wins, I almost guarantee it's by submission, so not a bad stat at all to look at. And fight does not go the distance at minus 300. I see whichever one of these two winning. I really don't think it's going to go the final bell. Joe Pyfer comes out really aggressive. He's either going to get Gerald Meerschart and KO him, or he's going to come out too aggressive, get tired, and get caught in a sub. And whichever of those happens, I don't think it goes the distance. So moving on up, we have Carl Williams versus Chase Sherman. And Chase Sherman got screwed by this matchup change, man. He was originally fighting Chris Curtis, which was a really good matchup for him. He had the size, he had the cardio, would have been a little difficult for him. Carl Williams, I just picked him to win his last fight 2 weeks ago. He's a new prospect in the heavyweight division. He's an aggressive wrestler type. He's not going to really play around on the feet too much, though he can. But my God, when he gets guys up against the cage and gets them down, he's able to just work them, and he's shown to be very, very good at doing it. And I think he's going to do the exact same thing here to Chase Sherman. I'm picking Carl Williams with high confidence to win this money line, and my favorite prop bet of this is over 1.5 rounds at minus 240. I see Carl Williams taking him down, grinding him out a little bit, maybe feeling him out in the early first round, and I think it's going to go at least to round 2, likely round 3. Carl wins a lot of his fights on decision, and I don't think Chase Sherman's going to finish him. So my favorite bet of that actual fight is over 1.5 rounds at minus 240, just because you get more money for it than taking Carl for money line. But Carl money line is also a pretty damn good lock. He's one of my locks of the card. Moving on up, we have Luana peinhero versus Michelle Waterson. Earlier in the week, I was picking Luana with high confidence. I'm still picking Luana, but with a little less confidence. The reason for this is Michelle has always been pretty good in the division, never top of the top, but even against some of the top people, she's been able to hold her own and just lose a decision like that. She has not shown to be the best against people who want to go in there and submit her and want to take her down and work her like that, and who really mix up the martial arts really well. And that's what I think Luana's going to do. Luana's got a lot of submissions on her record. She's really good at blitzing in. Michelle's like a karate type, right? She wants to keep the distance and she wants to point fight you. Obviously not just point fight you, but her style is based around point fighting, whereas Luana's trying to close the distance by blitzing in with punches, maybe some body kicks, but as soon as she gets in there, she's going to clinch and she's going to go for a takedown. It's her best path to victory, getting a submission. I think that she'll get the worst of the stand-up just by a little bit. I think Michelle will be better than her there, but I think she's going to be able to clinch Michelle, and I think she's going to be able to get her down, and that's why I'm picking Luana to win this one. Not quite as confident as I was last time. Best props, Luana by submission plus 600. Like I said, I could very well see Luana going out there, having a tough first round, getting her down earlier in the second, and getting a really nice submission for herself. But if I'm wrong and she's unable to get that submission, it's very likely to go the distance, and that's why my next favorite prop is fight goes the distance at minus 260. Again, female MMA usually always goes to the distance, not to just judge or anything, it just usually does. Moving on up, we have Chris Curtis versus Kelvin Gastelum. Yet another one that, man, earlier in the week I was picking Chris Curtis with high confidence, very high confidence, because Kelvin Gastelum to me hasn't looked to be the same fighter since that Israel Adesanya one. What's changed my mind and making me pick Kelvin Gastelum is how I visualize this specific matchup going. Chris Curtis is coming in with a really good reach advantage at 75-inch reach versus Kelvin's 71, but Kelvin's used to having the less reach in that middleweight division. He's been pretty small, so he's adapted his style around that. Kelvin's best weapons are his pace and being able to mix in a little wrestling. He hasn't done the wrestling thing too much lately in his career, but now that he's training with Henry Cejudo, I can guarantee they're telling him, bro, you're on a 3-fight losing streak. Go in there and fucking push him up against the cage with your boxing and then get a goddamn takedown. Like, I can almost guarantee that's what the game plan is going into this. And what makes that interesting is Chris Curtis has 100% takedown defense. So it hasn't been proven to be a real path to victory against Chris yet, but I could see Kelvin landing 1 or 2. And even if Kelvin doesn't land 1 or 2, I think he's going to push Chris back towards the octagon fence using his pace and his boxing. He doesn't have the most crisp boxing, but he does like to throw a lot, and he is able to take a good shot, and that's the number one thing I'm banking on in this. Kelvin should be able to win most of these rounds, surely with pressure and volume, but if Chris hits him and hurts him, it could be all over very quickly. If Kelvin's chin can hold up, he should be able to go out there and win a 29-28 decision. I think he'll lose one of the rounds. I'm feeling like round 2 right now. I think he'll start off Kelvin, he'll lose round 2, he'll come back and win round 3. Man, watching this guy's interviews leading up to this, feel bad for the guy. Like, he was on the top of the world. He's had some unfortunate losses, which they look really bad on his record, but if you actually remember how each one of them played out, it was kind of like a series of unfortunate events. It wasn't like he's going in there and getting flatlined or anything, you know. So all that being said, I think Kelvin's experience with the higher caliber fighters is going to come into play. His really good chin is going to come into play, and his aggressive style is going to come into play. And that perfect concoction, I think, is going to edge him out a decision victory here. However, my favorite bet of the actual whole fight is over 2.5 rounds. I think Kelvin will be able to handle what Chris puts back at him, and I don't see Kelvin finishing Chris. Another good prop for that actually is Kelvin by points. You can get that at plus 150. Moving on up, we have Christian Rodriguez versus Raul Rojas Jr. This one is a little bit more difficult than the odds makers make it seem. However, they're not making him a minus 400, so to be fair. But I'm going to be picking Raul Rojas Jr. I think he's the better of the fighters. When you actually watch them fight, he's way more aggressive. He loves to go for it. He's very good at just forcing submissions on his opponents, right? But on the other hand, Christian Rodriguez isn't a guy who's being put in there just to lose to the prospect. He can submit you. He can finish you on the feet. He's tough. He's shown to have good cardio. So it's not an easy fight for Raul at all. Don't go throw Rojas on all of your parlays. That's all I'm going to say. He's not a full lock. He could go in there and he could realize, oh shit, I'm not quite there just yet. And you know what? He's still so young where he's still going to build up and do big things in his career. So you don't want your parlays necessarily to all die because of that, is my point. Favorite prop for this one, I like under 1.5 rounds. You get plus 165 money for it. I think Rojas is going to go in there and try to make a statement. He's going to try to get the finish real early, and he likely will get the finish real early. But if I'm wrong and the opponent is too much for him, I could see the opponent maybe reversing him, catching him in some sort of submission when they're going in the grappling exchanges, or maybe even on the feet like we saw with Sam Peterson a couple weeks ago. You know, we haven't seen Rojas take big shots and handle it yet. I do believe it's going to be done under 1.5 rounds. So plus 165 for under 1.5 rounds. Ain't too bad at all. Definitely worth a stab. Moving on up, we have Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibio. I'm picking Kevin Holland with high confidence. He is my lock of the card. The reason being, Santiago likes to throw straight punches in, which is good when you're fighting guys who have a similar reach to you. Kevin Holland has an 81-inch reach. You know what Santiago's is? It's 73. That's crazy. That's a huge reach difference. And you know, maybe if Santiago was going up against not a great striker, I wouldn't fault him too heavy for it betting on him. Kevin Holland is a good striker. Kevin Holland was piecing up really good people in the middleweight division. He's come down and he's done very good in the welterweight division. And this stylistic matchup seems to be like a little early birthday gift to Kevin Holland, because Santiago is shown to get chin checked a couple times. Alex Morono was working him for that fight until Santiago got a last second comeback finish. And I think Kevin Holland is much better than Alex Morono. And I know that's just MMA math, but simply when you look at the reach disadvantage he's at, how good Kevin is with his hands, Kevin coming off a fight with Wonderboy Thompson, which is only going to make him sharper in the octagon. I think Kevin's going to get this one done, and I think he's going to come in here looking for a statement. I see Kevin getting a finish first or second round. I don't think Santiago is going to be able to handle the counters and the timing of Kevin, as well as the power. I think he's going to get caught off guard. He's going to get chin checked. Kevin's going to jump on him, get a finish. My favorite prop for this one is Kevin Holland by finish at plus 140. Moving on up, we have Adrian Yanez versus Rob Font. Oh boy. I'm going to stick with Adrian Yanez. I believe he'll get this one done, and let me explain to you how I see this fight going. First off, Rob is a very jab first type of fighter, control the range. He likes to throw 1-2 combos a lot, and he's been very good at doing it throughout his career. And then you look at what gave Adrian the hardest test so far in the UFC, and it was Randy Costa coming at him, lighting him up with jabs. So that right there is a little worrying. And then when you go look at the numbers, Rob Font lands 6.38 significant strikes per minute. He absorbs 3.95. He's got a 71-inch reach. Adrian Yanez lands 6.62, so a little bit more, but he absorbs 5.49, so he absorbs way more, and he's got a 70-inch reach. So I see those numbers, and I see the way these guys are in their fighting styles. Rob Font's probably going to come out here looking like the better fighter early on. I see him winning the first round. Yanez is going to have to start learning his timing. The biggest thing on the side of Yanez is that 6.38 strikes he lands per minute, they're shown to be a lot more impactful. Like, his opponents are dropping off of that, whereas Rob Font is going to decision a lot lately. So, and especially after you have Rob Font coming off that war with Chito Vera. Chito Vera broke his face. He felt it crackling inside the octagon, and that was about a year ago. I know he's had time to heal. My God, what does that do to your mentality? You know, every single time Yanez lands on him, I would imagine in the back of his head, he's going to be fearing that just a little bit. So I see Rob being a little bit more hesitant, especially as he starts getting cracked up, worrying about that happening. I see him winning the first round. Yanez starting to find his timing, making it a very close second round, but Yanez winning the second round with more damage being shown visibly. And I see Yanez likely putting him away in the third round, or winning a 29-28 decision, with Rob Font looking like an absolute mess at the end of it. This is a big fight for Yanez. It's his hardest test by far, and if you're a dog hunter, if you're looking for dog odds, Rob Font is not a bad bet. My favorite prop for this is over 2.5 rounds. I really do think that Rob's going to be able to hang in there. He's shown to be able to not get finished. He's never been finished in his entire UFC career. I know Yanez is better at putting people away than a lot of the opponents Rob has fought recently. With how much is on the line for Rob, and also how much is on the line for Yanez, I really think this one does go the distance. So over 2.5 rounds at -125. Very good bet for this fight. It's probably my favorite bet for that specific fight, just because I do see the upset potential with it. Moving on up, we have Gilbert Durinho Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. Guys, Jorge Masvidal is some of the best takedown defense in the welterweight division. He's got crazy knockouts. He's done so many upsets lately. All that being said, Gilbert Burns is going to submit him. I think Gilbert Burns is going to get in there, use a body lock, which he's shown to be his favorite takedown against Wonderboy. He used it against Neil Magny. He's not going to go for double legs, which is what Jorge is usually used to defending, doubles and singles. They're going to box a little bit on the feet. Gilbert's going to quickly push him up against the cage, and as soon as it enters a clinch position, Gilbert's wrapping those hands around him, body lock throwing him to the ground, and he's going to get on top of him and either ride the round out, or he's going to get a submission like that. Jorge's kind of screwed at that point, right? What does he do? If he tries to get up quick, that leaves openings for Gilbert to jump on, grab an arm, grab the neck, and get a submission that way. And if he just stays there, it's a 3-round fight. You let Gilbert do that twice, you've now lost the decision essentially. So it's a really bad matchup for Jorge. I know he has the special recipe to give Gilbert some problems, but I just look at it. George is 38 years old. Gilbert's 36. They both need this win so much. George is even talking about retiring if he loses. I see Gilbert running in there, putting the pace on him, and getting this one done. My favorite prop for this one is Gilbert by submission plus 240. Gilbert moneyline is a little crazy, -400. I did use him on like one card, but I wouldn't go throw him on all your parlays just because it's Masvidal and anything can happen. But gun to my head, I'm taking Gilbert moneyline all day, and I think he is going to get the submission, probably second round. I think the first round he'll find a takedown, won't quite get the submission. Second round they'll box a little bit, and then Gilbert will get the body lock, get him down, and get his submission right there. So, and here we are, the main event. This is why you're watching this video. This is why we're excited for the card. If you guys enjoy my style of content, you want to watch more of my videos and help me grow as a creator, consider subscribing with your notifications on and leave a like rating. Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya. I've done a full in-depth breakdown on this matchup, so I'll go through this as quickly as I can. I'm picking Israel Adesanya to get the win here. Just because he's lost 3 times in the past, it doesn't mean he's for sure going to lose the 4th, though I know conventional wisdom would make you pick Alex, and I don't blame anybody who picks Alex. Usually when I make my picks and a friend picks against me, I'm kind of like, oh, fucking idiot. But no, not this one. I don't blame you if you pick against me at all. But to me, the way I see this fight playing out is both of them coming at it more aggressive, because on the one hand, Alex knows, okay, I was losing going into the 5th. I can't let it be like that again. On the other hand, Israel knows, I need to get this guy out of there, because if he's still in the 5th, he can finish me. He's proven that twice already. We know Alex wants to keep it back up towards the octagon fence. Israel, on the other hand, wants to keep it out in the open, so he has room to use his movement and his speed to be able to maneuver and dodge Alex's punches and kicks as they come in. So it's going to be a huge battle for who can control that, and what can Israel do when Alex is starting to push him back up. I've seen him training a lot of takedown offense in this one. He could win by an early TKO. You remember Alex is cutting like 40 pounds. If Israel comes out super aggressive, he could definitely get the ref to hop in and finish Alex off early. If the fight starts to go on and it's the 2nd, 3rd round, I see Israel potentially getting a sub around that area of the fight. And if it keeps going on, it gets scary, obviously, for Israel. I could see Izzy in another spot where he's up on the scorecards. He needs to survive the 5th, and this time instead of going back to the octagon fence, he's going to go for takedowns, and I'm banking on him being successful in it this time. I know in their last fight, the only takedown he actually got, Alex went for a trip and he had it reversed. That doesn't mean Israel can't get him down this time. He's a big, strong guy. It's going to be hard to get him down when he's prepared to be taken down. But if Alex is in the middle of trying to finish you, he's throwing his left hook, he's throwing his leg kicks, that's your opportunity to go for a takedown. Not when you have him pushed up against the octagon and he knows you're going to do it. His weight and his strength is going to be too much there. Israel's got to do it using his timing, and Israel has beautiful timing. So I know Izzy is not a relentless chain wrestler. He's not Israel Nurmagomedov by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want him to go out there and use it for all 5 rounds. I just want him to use it when the opportunity presents itself and when he needs to do it to take away Alex's strengths. If you're going on the side of Alex has his number, Alex will improve his bottom game, momentum is on Alex's side, the champion instantly becomes 30% better. All of these things are working on Alex's side. So at underdog odds, if you're taking Alex Pereira, don't blame you at all. It's a real 50-50 fight to me, to be completely honest. I know that's a little indecisive, but I'd rather be honest with you. I'm not going to say I'm fully confident in Israel Adesanya. I'm not confident in either of them. But who am I edging it to? I think Israel's going to get this one done. Props to look for in this one. Adesanya by sub. It's just a way I could see this one going. If you're too scared of that, because it is a little crazy, Adesanya by points plus 180. Pereira by KO plus 165. Whichever side you want to side on, those are the props I would look for. So locks of the card. First, Kevin Holland. Very confident in him for reasons I said earlier. Carl Williams. Very confident in him. It's a bad stylistic matchup for Chase. Jaqueline Amorim. I'm giving her the lock of the card status, though I know she's a female fighting prospect who's never fought in the UFC. That's always a little terrifying. I just still think she's going to get this one with confidence. And of course, Gilbert Burns. I very strongly feel Gilbert Burns is going to win this one too. All 4 of them are not the best money line odds, but if you want to add all 4 of them together, as you'll see in our parlay section, it can start to add up. And a bonus lock of the card is going to be Bahamondes. Again, with Trey Ogden coming in after 2 weight cuts, even before that not being as good as Bahamondes, I really feel confident in Bahamondes winning this. Moving on to the dogs of the card, I know I'm on the Neurdanbieke side, but as I mentioned earlier, Steve has got the reach. He's got the numbers on his side. He's very good at hitting and not getting hit, and his takedown defense is good. If he can stop Neurdanbieke from landing his takedowns, there's a world where you see Steve Garcia just work Neurdanbieke for the first 2 rounds, maybe get taken down in the 3rd because he's tired, but still win because of the first 2 rounds on decision. Gerald Meerschart, same case. He's going up against a prospect who has never been tested at this high level in the UFC. Gerald has got amazing finishing ability from submissions. He's proven to be able to be down in the fight, come back, find a win, and Joe Pyfer is shown to have a little cardio issues if the fight goes longer. So if Joe Pyfer is unable to get the finish early, and this starts going into round 2, round 3, Gerald Meerschart's chances go way higher because it's way easier for him to get into grappling when Joe's tired. Gerald Meerschart by sub or even Gerald Meerschart money line, a very good one to look for. And the next one is going to be Rob Font. Again, I laid this out. Rob Font's main weapon is his jab. Yanez had a big problem dealing with the jab. Rob Font is used to fighting 5-round fights and holding a good pace for that whole 5 rounds. He only has to go 3 rounds deep now. It's also a must-win situation for Rob Font. So Rob Font at those underdog odds, man, it's not a bad stab at all. The last underdog of the card is Alex Pereira. I know I'm on the Israel Adesanya side, but like I said, being honest, to me it's a 50-50 fight. Alex Pereira could definitely win this. He's beaten him 3 times. UFC champs are only 3-13 when getting an immediate rematch against the person that lost him. Momentum is on Alex's side, and they're still giving you underdog odds, which is a little crazy. So if you're feeling heavily in Alex Pereira winning, if you think the momentum is going to be too much, Alex Pereira at those odds is tasty. And this is my personal favorite part of this video. I hope you guys enjoy it too. Let me know if I should keep including this or if it's not needed. But these are the parlays that I'm actually taking myself. I'm putting my own money on these cards so you can see really what I believe the most in, right? And if you want to follow me along, you're more than welcome to. Let me know if you are in the comments. If you want to take a little bit and change it a little bit, go ahead. This is just to give you guys some ideas of what I think are some good things to pair together. The first one I'm taking is Kelvin Gastelum and Chris Curtis over 2.5 rounds. Kevin Holland money line. Carlin Williams over 1.5 rounds. And Jaqueline Amorim money line. You put all 4 of those together, it's going to give you 4x your money. Nothing too crazy on the multiplier side, but to me, it's got a very high chance of hitting. I like it a lot. I got 2 units on that one myself, and I'm loaded up pretty heavy on it. This one's paying out 5.5x your money. You got Bahamondes, Joe Pyfer, Kevin Holland, Raul Rojas Jr., and Curtis and Gastelum over 2.5. I got 1 unit on that myself. The next one is Carl Williams over 2.5, Israel Adesanya money line, Raul Rojas Jr. money line, Kevin Holland money line, and Gastelum over 2.5. That one pays 6.5 extra money. Another unit on that one myself. Last of these safer plays, we got Carl Williams money line, Kevin Holland money line, Bahamondes money line, Amorim, Neurdanbieke, and then Lupita and Cynthia over 2.5 rounds. I didn't want to touch Lupita too much in the safer ones just because I do see the upset potential. I think the over is more likely to hit, so I like that one a lot too. You add those together, you're getting 5.1 extra money. And now this is where we're going to get a little bit more risky, a little more crazy. This is called the rent payer. So this one's paying 18.5 extra money. We're starting off with Jaqueline Amorim, Carl Williams over 1.5, Lupita Godinez over 2.5, Joe Pyfer, Kelvin Gastelum over 2.5, Rosas Jr., and Kevin Holland. I like to mix in my over-unders so you're not all relying on getting every single one of your picks right, especially if I'm a little more worried in the actual matchup. And 18.5 extra money for those picks, pretty good value to be honest. I'm putting one unit on all of these rent payer ones. And of course guys, if you guys enjoy my style of content, you want to watch more of my videos, I upload every single UFC. Smash the subscribe button with your notifications on and hit that like button and leave a comment. It helps me grow my channel more than you realize, and I genuinely appreciate it so much, and I will see you in the next one.